tariffs. I'm simply saying right now, the market is adjusting to what these tariffs are bringing them. Somehow Jeffries didn't stop there. After lying about the economy and all the other things, he's having us on the ropes. He decided to fearmonger about health care. Listen.
We have them on the run in terms of health care, particularly as it relates to Medicaid. House Democrats stand on the side of Medicaid and the American people. Republicans are trying to enact the largest cut to Medicaid in American history. And we need to keep the pressure on them.
You have Republicans on the run nowhere, Mr. Dollar Store Obama. Randi Weingarten, by the way, remember her? She's the teachers union boss. Randi Weingarten lost her mind during a rant about the DOE, and when I say E, that's education.
Is why so many people are so mad about it, because they're just taking opportunity away from kids that don't have it. So billionaires, kids of billionaires, they have it. They go to private schools. Everyone else, 90%, go to public schools. Don't take away their opportunity.
So let's stay on the facts.
Sorry,
no,
I'm really angry about this.
No, because this
I'm
is what
really
people
angry.
need to hear.
I taught kids in Clara Barton High School in Brooklyn, New York.
Look, here's the bottom line. Trump, he wants to send education back to the states where it's supposed to be, where it really should be. Why are the feds dictating what each individual state wants to teach in their public schools? It makes absolutely no sense, other than clowns like Randi Weingarten and her union members get paid. And that's what they really want. They want to justify their own union membership dues, which is insane. Let each state decide what they want to teach the kids. That's what we are. We're a constitutional republic. We're not a government overseer, communist, pseudo-communist government body where it dictates everything we do, eat, sleep, and learn. Stop it. I'm going to apologize in advance for this clip I'm about to show you all. This is one of the worst videos that I've ever seen. Cringy, childish Democrats, again, somehow now doubling down on their dance videos, this time jumping around like idiots to a song about, quote, hostile government takeover. Watch.
We're in the middle of a hostile government takeover. I want to talk about it, but I'll be late for work. And if you say, wait a minute, do we have to stop this? We had one, but she didn't want that lady in office.
No more. Make it stop. Make it stop. This is how they're going to get you back, right? You're going to get your vote back after all our crappy policies. They're going to come back because you want to watch them dance. So we'll just keep playing bad politicians dancing. No one yet has beat Karl Rove. We'll show you that another time. Let's welcome filmmaker, author, and podcast host, Dinesh D'Souza. Dinesh, really good to see you, my friend. Glad you. Sorry you had to experience those Dems dancing right there. How are you, friend? 50 days into the Trump second term presidency, you want to give us a bit of a scorecard? Let us know what your thoughts.
Well, I think that Trump is exceeding expectations. He is, in fact, a different man than he was in 2016. I think the result, he's almost like, Dante, who went into the depths of the inferno and has come out completely transformed. And so he is taking on things that no previous Republican. I mean, my mind flashes back to Reagan, but you could flash further back to Eisenhower, to Hoover. I mean, no Republican has taken on the waste and fraud that is now encrusted in the government in this fundamental way. Even in the Reagan years, we used to say, well, we can switch out the political appointees, but the career bureaucrats, they're like professors who have tenure. There's nothing we can do about them. And Trump is proving that's not true. Nobody ordained this kind of unelected class of bureaucrats and told them that they're somehow immune from political accountability, that they don't answer to the president. So we're seeing something, I think, quite fundamental, perhaps just as fundamental as the FDR revolution going back to the 1930s. 94%
reduction in border crossings in the first month, in the month of February versus last year, 94%. And he hasn't even built the wall yet, and hopefully he continues to do that. I think it's fascinating that with the tariff, the additional Mexican tariff that he's proposing, that literally Mexico will end up paying for the wall with these tariff fees.
Well, the tariff policy is maybe Trump's most controversial because by and large, free market economists have not been in favor of tariffs. Trump likes tariffs. Now, he likes them for two separate reasons. And the first one I endorse, the second one I'm less sure of. The first one is using tariffs as a tool of diplomacy. So it's kind of like, listen, you need to seal the Mexican side of the border, stop the flow of fentanyl, stop the human trafficking. And if you don't do that, you're going to be facing some punitive tariffs. This is tariffs being used as a kind of a cudgel against Claudia Sheinbaum and also against Canada for the same reason. This is different than tariffs being used as a tool of economic policy. Now, hey, the United States had a lot of tariffs in the 19th century. It was a very prosperous time for the country. I think Trump does not think that there's anything fundamentally wrong with tariffs. And he also thinks that, gee, if we can raise money from tariffs, that's getting foreigners to pay for stuff and getting the government some money that it doesn't then have to get out of the American taxpayer through taxes. That's why Trump has spoken about the so-called external revenue service, an extremely kind of novel and interesting idea. So I'm uncertain about the tariffs, but I do think they can be effective as a tool of diplomacy.
What do you think? I agree with you. I'm one of those free marketeers, by the way. Listen, if countries want to charge us a fee, a tariff, an import fee, export for us, import to them, then we find another place to sell it. And that's literally, the market will adjust no matter what the fee structure is. We're still the biggest customer in the world, and China's still the biggest producer in the world. We'll figure it out. I don't like government involving themselves in anything we do, especially in the market. Just me. Gavin Newsom, I believe he is probably the odds-on favorite to run for president in 2028. I know a lot of people are saying Kamala, or maybe even this new Jasmine Crockett from Texas Congresswoman. But Gavin Newsom all of a sudden sits down with our own Charlie Kirk and walks back dozens, if not decades, of years of pro-LGBTQ trans, saying it's not fair for dudes in women's sports. All of a sudden, that is not his stance for many, many years. Your thoughts on the walk back? What's that all about?
I think Gavin Newsom has realized that there are a handful of issues on which an overwhelming majority of Americans are on one side and the left-wing Democrats are on the other side. You mentioned earlier the border. That's an issue like that. You're not going to find even a whole lot of Democrats who go, oh, yeah, we like the open border. We like the porous border. We like all the illegals swarming in. That's insane. Similarly, I think most Americans think that men are men, women are women, and having, boys in women's bathrooms or guys competing against women or biological males competing against women in sports. I think that there's a general sense that that's preposterous. So I think Newsom has realized strategically, the important point is he's not undergone any kind of a moral conversion. It's not that he's seen the light. It's not that he's been reading some biology textbooks for the first time. It's just that he's realized strategically this is like a millstone around the neck of the left. And so he's decided to let a couple of these issues sink to the bottom of the ocean.
So there's a young lady around who is she was Biden advisor. She was a Kamala Harris fundraiser, also a senior advisor. The minute Trump won, she came out and said, I'm conservative, I'm pro-Trump. And I've been on television with her. And my fear is that people are putting her on television just because she is now against the liberal, the progressives. And the fear is that she's a Trojan horse. I think she's very dangerous. Lindy Lee is who I'm talking about. Your thoughts on these Democrats who all of a sudden have come around? Lindy Lee is the biggest example for me. Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg, and such. Are we supposed to, MAGA, are we supposed to open our arms and embrace these clowns? I don't want to, but I could be in the minority. Your thoughts?
I think Trump's approach to all this is pretty good, and that is it is transactional. Trump recognizes that, again, with regard to guys like Bezos or Mark Zuckerberg, they're really opportunists. But it's important to realize, Eric, that they were opportunists even when they were on the left. In other words, they were intimidated by DEI. They didn't want to have swarms of leftists at Amazon, coming into their office and screaming about how sexist they were. So they relented to the left. And now, since the political winds have changed, they're relenting to the right. So this now raises a question for us, which is, what do we do about the opportunists? this? Do we turn them away? Or do we realize that, guess what? You're actually going to get a limited admission ticket. So you can come to the concert, you can basically come into the church, but guess what? We're not actually going to be asking you to give the sermon because you can sit in the back row, you know? And so I think that I've been cautiously open to this kind of opportunism, but recognizing that we have to, you know, if Lindy Lee wants to become a conservative, I'm not against that, but she's going to have to prove herself.
Yeah, my concern is she was vehemently against Trump, called him really nasty names until he won. And yeah, I guess you're right, Dinesh. I shouldn't hold a grudge. We'll take their money, right? We'll take their money and we'll take their votes. Dinesh, really good having you on. We'll get you again soon, very soon. Sorry, I was a little truncated because a lot of bells and whistles going on. Dinesh D'Souza, thank you.
A pleasure.
All right, folks, we'll be right back. Well, look at that. Look at that. The U.S. Space Station. Isn't that amazing? Look at the clouds. I wonder where that is. Well, maybe it is southern Florida. I'm not really sure where it is right now, but wow, is that a cool shot. All right, folks. Ben Bergquam is the host of Law and Border right here on RAV, and today he's joining us from exactly there, from the border. Ben, good to see you. Last time we spoke to you, you were hunting crystals, but this time you are showing us and you're exposing where these cartels, tell us where you are and how dangerous it is. What are you seeing, brother?
Well, I'm at, it's kind of a no man's land area up here, very sketchy, especially at night. We were out here doing some night ops last night. I was actually hunkered down. I'm going to turn the camera down here. Turn the camera first over here. You can see this is the opening in the wall. We're in between two wall sections. This is a double layer of wall. This is it's such a hot zone that they've actually built walls on both sides. But Joe Biden left a bunch of the sections open after Trump left office, after they stole the election. And now, so there's some of these areas that are still open that President Trump is working to finish filling. But you can see off in the distance behind me, everything to my left, everything left of the wall. If you look down there, that line of the wall, double layer wall, is Mexico. That's Tijuana. To the right is Otay Mesa. And right now, as we speak, at the bottom, You've got National Guard troops put a concertina wire in between there. We were filming them as we came up here. There's a group of illegals that's running up through the mountains. We saw Border Patrol chasing them, a helicopter chasing them. So even though the numbers are down significantly, like more than 90% all the way across the border, there are still areas where the cartel still operates. You've got armed cartel members that operate all day on this side of the wall over here to my right. This is one of the places I wear a vest when I come to because it is a dangerous place. But it just shows you the battle we're in is just beginning. It's why it's so critical that President Trump labeled these guys terrorist organizations and why he's going after them the way he is.
You know, Ben, I've seen that. I've been in a helicopter over that with Border Patrol. It's amazing how many areas don't have any wall at all. And you go, well, how come they don't just run around? And some of it's pretty treacherous territory. I think they find a ton of bodies in some of those mountains, especially in the summer when the heat bears down on these people who are trying to make it around the borders. Is that right? Is that I mean, it's almost like you build the wall and stop people from dying trying to get across the border.
Right. Yeah, you know, that's such a great point, Eric. This is one of the things that the left, they claim to be humanitarians. They claim that they're protecting illegals and with this invasion that they've invited. The reality is they had more illegals die during Joe Biden's tenure than ever under any other president in American history. They killed more people because of the open borders, and that's because of exactly what you're saying here. If you get through this layer of wall, if you look off into the background, that is rugged, remote mountains. And as you mentioned, in the summertime, it can get 110, 115 degrees as you go further east, in particular out and towards the Arizona area. Many areas where they're crossing illegals, their bodies out there all the time, and a lot of them aren't recovered until years later. President Trump's policies are the most compassionate policies, border policies, that we've ever had. We stopped child trafficking. We stopped human trafficking. We stopped the cartel making money and exploiting more people. And we stopped the NGOs from making money on all of this. And if there's really an enemy in this entire war, it's the NGOs, it's the United Nations, it's all of these fake groups pretending to be charitable, pretending to be humanitarian, when really they're profiting off of people's misery.
I'm so glad you brought that up. It leads into the next topic I wanted to talk to you about. There's some reporting out now, today. Act Blue is apparently spending and giving a lot of money. Just give us a sense where, again, you look at some of the list of the names of groups that were receiving money from Act Blue, a lot of churches, a lot of NGOs, a lot of various groups. Where's the money coming from and where is it going to, and how are they going to stop it?
Well, it's money laundering 101. That's what basically the Democrat Party has become. And that's why what Doge is doing, what President Trump's doing with Elon Musk and going after USAID, a lot of this is it's simply money laundering. It's pumping money into organizations or to agencies in our federal government that then send it down through grants, through the Democrat politicians. Chuck Schumer signs off on a lot of these. In particular, there's a group called El Otro Lado, one of these far leftist groups that's working on the Mexico side and the U.S. side, getting millions of dollars from grants signed off. We actually have the documents signed off by Chuck Schumer. That's one group down here. Same with Act Blue. All of these organizations getting millions and millions of dollars of taxpayer funding to pretend like they're doing good. And all they do is then filter that down to their leftist activist groups who are working on destroying this country from within. And this has been going on for decades. It's finally, the sad reality is it's just now that we're finally digging in and getting the real numbers. And a lot of us, you and I, have known about this for years, but until you actually get the raw data that they're getting out of Doge, it's a lot of speculation. Now we're actually seeing the numbers, the millions and millions and millions of dollars that you paid for, your tax dollars. Every single person watching this show is paying for the undermining of America through these organizations pretending to be nonpartisan, pretending to be or even partisan. Act Blue is obviously clearly working for the Democrats, but they're still getting our taxpayer funding. Yeah. It's absolutely outrageous. It has to stop.
So, final question, Ben. The Kristi Noem, DHS secretary, has said that she's going to keep the military at the border until it's closed, until it's fixed. Have you seen any presence? I know you mentioned National Guard, but any DOD staff personnel?
Yep. Everywhere we go, I'm going to be making my way out to El Paso, and we've got them there. You got DOD, you've got National Guard. Depending on where you're at, California here, you don't get much help from the State Guard. You don't get much help from the state itself. So a lot of these guys are being brought in at the federal level. Basically, they're using everybody that they possibly can. And I don't know if I can get out of the shot and maybe zoom down in just to give you an idea of how many. I'm going to go down here into this little valley, and I'll show you every single one of these vans down in between the walls. So that van at the bottom of the screen, those 4 vans, those are all military personnel. They're all out here working to secure the border. They're actually putting up concertina wire as we speak, and it goes all the way down the line. Every one of those vans, just to give you an idea of how many military personnel we're talking about,
it's
all
funny, Ben,
the way down there into Tijuana.
I don't want to interrupt you, but that shot, keep that shot of it. If you can see, folks, and this is really fascinating, especially when you're at the border. On the Mexican side of the border, those towns are right up against the border wall. They just want to be so close to the United States. And on the United States side of the border, we've got a big space, big open areas where we keep people away so that if there's clearly economic activity to bring people that close to the border wall. And that's really what's happening because they're sending people across and they're coming back. Final thought before we let you go, Ben.
Well, I'll just show you. You just brought it up. That little community you're looking at right there is completely controlled by the cartels. Right just to the bottom of the screen, you can't see it in this shot, is a gap in the wall. And that's where I was last night. All of the night vision footage, the thermal footage that I sent in was all from that spot. And they've basically taken over. And the sad reality is if you live in Mexico, you have to live with this. And so these guys, these communities are run by the cartels. It's not just America that wants to get rid of the cartels. It's people in Mexico as well. But you're right. The economy of Mexico is 100% reliant on the United States. And all you have to do is look at that. You're absolutely right. Look at that. The way that butts up against the wall there. They're trying to come in. And, the ones that want to come in for the right reasons, go through the process, do it right. You're welcome. The rest of you can stay the hell out.
And stay the hell out. That's right. Do it the right way or don't come in. You're breaking the law. Ben Bergquam, thank you so much. Please be safe out there. We want to come back to you very, very soon. Thank you. Thank you, Ben.
Thanks, Eric.
All right, folks, we'll be right back. Isn't that beautiful? Sedona, Arizona is one of the most beautiful places on the planet. Certainly one of the most beautiful places in the United States to visit. You got to go there at some point. It's just like incredibly beautiful desert, colorful mountains, so peaceful. It's just a really great place to go. And you know what you should do? Go and turn off your cell phones, turn off your technology. Don't watch TV. Shut everything down for a couple of days, and you will clear your mind, folks. Sedona, Arizona. By the way, I don't understand why the Democrats are so mad about Trump's tariffs. I think at this point, they just like to oppose every single thing the president says or does. Listen to Trump talk about his vision and be very honest with yourself. Is this anything to be upset about?
All I know is this: we're going to take in hundreds of billions of dollars in tariffs, and we're going to become so rich, you're not going to know where to spend all that money. I'm telling you, you just watch. We're going to have jobs. We're going to have open factories. It's going to be great.
I don't know. I hope so. Again, we just talked to Dinesh about tariffs. I'm not sure the tariff is a thing we want to do, but Trump has been right about everything. A lot of people question his motives and his ideas. They end up right at some point down the road, and everyone scratches their heads. How did he know? How did he see that coming? More from the president, who never has an issue calling out reporters for pushing BS. Listen.
You by attacking Ukraine when you're trying to make peace there? Is President Putin disrespecting you by attacking Ukraine when you're trying to make peace there?
What did he do?
Well, he's attacking Ukraine.
Is he disrespecting me?
Yeah.
Who are you with?
I'm Michael Burkoff from Washington Post.
You've lost a lot of credibility. Go ahead. What else?
That was a Washington Post reporter. He just leg swept him, especially on Air Force One. You know, the guy's standing there, his hands already shaking. And Trump looks, who are you with? Mike something, Washington Post. He's like, next. I love Trump. Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett posted a cartoon image to her Instagram showing her and AOC as stick figures physically beating up what is labeled as Republicans. Crockett, who's no stranger to showing her immaturity, recently went on a ridiculous rant about entering the United States, highlighted by this moronic quote.
City law enforcement, local law enforcement, they are always going after crime. And they don't say, oh, you committed a murder? Oh, but you're an immigrant? Well, let me let you go, right? So they are always focused on crime. They continue to say things like the illegals and that they broke the law coming in. But what they're not telling the American people is that it is a civil violation. It is not a criminal violation to enter the country illegally. It's not a criminal. It's a crime. It's not a crime, which is why they're so frustrated, because they really want our local law enforcement to go out and round up people when they could be looking out for the murderers and the sexual abusers as well as the robbers. They want them to go and round people up on civil accusations. And so that's why I wanted to point out, don't give me this fake outrage about criminals roaming our streets when you guys stand 10 toes down for the biggest criminal that we have ever seen go into the White House.
This woman wants to be president. She wants to be president in 2028. Can someone call Jasmine Crockett in Texas and tell her there are two types of crimes? There are civil and criminal. And yes, both of them are crimes, Jazz. AOC, what the heck are you talking about? This one truly makes no sense. Listen.
Right? How many of us have had a family member or like someone that you care about that you've lost to this kind of like Trump dark web? How many young boys do you know that get sucked up into like this Andrew Tate stuff? I feel genuinely I don't even feel defensive about it or angry about it. I feel like really bummed that the right wing is like really dooming a lot of trying to doom a lot of little boys into unhappiness.
All right, let's go. First of all, AOC, I'm not even going to waste time. By the way, folks, who's dumber, AOC or Jazz Crockett? I'm going to put that up on my social media. We do a poll. I'm not really sure who's going to win that one? Who's dumber? AOC? It's going to be a tie. My next guest was a campaign advisor to Donald Trump when he ran for president in 2016. Now George Papadopoulos and his wife Simona have a show on YouTube called Global View. And let's welcome George Papadopoulos. George, really good to have you on, my friend. One of the things, on Friday, we had Mike Benz on, and it was unbelievable, a wildly eye-opening interview. We went really long with him. But one of the things he said that was very concerning to me, we were talking about USAID and all the corruption, and he said that the State Department was worried about the way the CIA was acting, so they split them out years ago. And then the CIA got a little bit nervous, and they split out USAID. And then I asked him, did the FBI also, were they corrupt with USAID? And he said, absolutely. And George, you had to, I guess you had to plead guilty to lying to the FBI, but you were lying to an absolutely corrupt FBI. What are your thoughts when you hear things like that?
Yeah, Eric. Well, thanks so much for having me, and congrats on the new show. Look, there's nothing, this is really as astonishing as it was predictable, right? And in my situation, not only did I actually plead to something that was a complete setup, but you actually have people who are involved in that sitting in prison right now, including people like Peter Strzok's boss, Charles McGonigal, who was sentenced over 6.5 years in prison. And I think we're going to have a lot more shoes that are going to drop now. They have people like Kash Patel at the head of the FBI, Gabbard at DNI, and of course, John Ratcliffe over at the CIA, because I think Ben's made a very good point that these aren't isolated agencies. They actually coordinate, they work together. And if one agency is extremely corrupt, then obviously the other one is likely doing the bidding of that one. And when you have USAID involved, USAID, just based on what we have found, this was an agency, Eric, that was less than 1% of the federal budget. And its entire purpose was basically designed to install puppet regimes abroad, finance bizarre agendas abroad, and domestically to propagate propaganda and to attack traditional values and to write hit pieces against MAGA, President Trump and his supporters. So when you look at this in its totality, it really shows one thing. U.S. taxpayer dollars are being funneled or laundered to the intelligence agencies for two reasons: to cause chaos abroad and to basically interfere with our domestic politics here in the United States. And both the FBI and the CIA have their fingerprints all over them.
That's the causing chaos abroad. I have no problem with. For me, that's a great idea. Cause chaos with dictatorships and communist governments. That's fantastic. We're supposed to do that. I think that was the original. I think the original mandate of USAID was to promote democracy. But if you got the CIA involved, we know how they promote democracy. No problem. My problem was with when the FBI was also dipping in and pointing whatever cannons they got at people like George Papadopoulos and other Americans.
Yeah, look, that's exactly why the approval rating of agencies like the FBI are at record lows, especially among conservatives in America. The Department of Justice is seeing record low approval ratings, and this not only affects our republic and how we function as a republic, but the rule of law, how cases are actually brought in front of judges, the credibility of witness testimony, FBI agent testimony. This all goes to the hearts of our country and our laws and our Constitution. And that's why, Eric, it's so important, and why President Trump made reforming the DOJ, reforming the FBI, the CIA, rooting out the corruption and the rot, such a massive campaign issue, when in normal times, this wouldn't even be a discussion. This would be an afterthought. We would be talking about the border. We talk a little about foreign policy, economic policy. But President Trump made this a major campaign promise. The type of people that he's installed at the leadership levels at the DOJ, from A.G. Bondi to Patel to Gabbard, now Dan Bongino as deputy FBI director, he means business. And these people are patriotic Americans. They abide by the Constitution. They know the story of Russiagate inside and out. I've testified under oath to Congress, giving a lot of information about what was really going on. They're going to go after these people. We're going to restore credibility in the system. And as Americans and as America, we'll be much better off going to the future.
George, only about 30 seconds or so. Cash, I love Cash is being backed up by Bongino, which is phenomenal. I mean, you're a bad guy, or you better start cleaning your act up and start getting on your knees begging for forgiveness. But how does he first clean out the FBI quickly, if you don't mind?
Yeah, look, what Kash Patel, Director Patel, has to really be doing is conducting thorough investigations, an audit, if you will, right? You have DOJ conducting audits all around the government. Patel has to conduct an audit. He has to investigate corrupt actors within the FBI. Look what happened just recently regarding this Epstein rollout. You've had the director, the head of the New York FBI office, forced out. This is a good first step. Continue down this process. Apply the law equally and fairly. Don't just target FBI agents or people like James Comey, but look to see if they did conduct themselves in a criminal manner. And if they did, which I believe they did, and I think you're going to see that they were doing something illegal, apply the law to them, prosecute them, make an example out of these people, and make the FBI great again, Eric. That's the only way. And I think starting like that from the bottom up, they'll restore credibility and we'll be a much safer country as a result.
Sounds like it's a plan. George Stephanopoulos, everybody, by the way, he's got a podcast on YouTube called Global View. Thank you for being here, George.
Thanks, Eric.
Talk again soon. All right, folks, we'll be right back. Rio de Janeiro. I was there in, I don't know, 1990. A group of guys, we got robbed once, maybe even twice. Dangerous place back then. Beautiful, but dangerous. All right, folks, we used to get the flu or a common cold. The last few years, we've experienced COVID-19 endlessly, and now we have to worry about bird flu. Here to give us an update about what is going on is the CEO of the wellness company, Peter Gallulli. Peter, good to have you, my friend. Recently, a new, more deadly strain of H5N1, the bird flu, was discovered. What does this discovery mean? Are we going to have more and more variants of this?
I think so, Eric. I mean, we've been covering this story with Rav now for, gosh, it almost feels like a year. And I keep waiting for it to go away, but it's not. And in fact, I think it's kind of getting worse. I mean, you've seen the headlines yourself. You go to the store to get a pack of eggs, you're looking at a $12, $15 purchase in some cases, right? I mean, when I was growing up, eggs were $1 for a pack of 12. I think the bird flu is getting worse. I think that we're seeing an abject failure to the government's response, which was really championed by the Biden administration over the past 4 years. And, Donald Trump and MAGA here to pick up the pieces. So
the government's approach, is it what you mentioned, doesn't seem to be working, mass culling of chickens, driving egg prices through the roof, but doesn't appear to be stopping the virus. Why is that? What's happening?
Well, Eric, I don't know about you, but when I was a kid and the guy down the street got chicken pox, my mom made me go play with him because she wanted me to get natural immunity, right? That same principle, as basic as it is, applies to chickens, right? And we are not letting our flocks build natural immunity. We're just culling the entire flock the second one chicken gets sick. It's a terrible policy, and it's actually allowing the virus to propagate because you're not actually building chickens that are resistant to the virus. So whether we're culling or we're trying to vaccinate them, which is arguably even worse, we're actually not solving the problem because we're allowing the virus more chances to mutate. RFK Jr. was on the news last week saying that we're creating mutation factories here in our farms. And it's just a matter of time with this strategy that we're going to let the H5N1 virus gain the mutations it needs to jump to mammals. And we've already kind of seen that in some isolated cases around the U.S.
That's scary. In response, though, we saw the wellness company, what you guys are doing. You initiated a program to offer free medications to frontline farmers. This is a great idea. Frontline farmers to protect against the bird flu. Is there a protection? Can you tell us about this project? And I know you guys are on the forefront of trying to help solve this before it does get out of hand.
Yeah, Dr. McCullough and the rest of the Wellness Company's Chief Medical Board is just kind of appalled at the lack of action that we're seeing from the government. So we decided to step up. We've been offering, as your audience knows, these medical emergency kits that have really taken off. We have over 1 million Americans that are currently medically prepared with one of these kits in their homes. And we decided, hey, we need to do our part and help our farmers. So we created a website, twc.health/farms, where any poultry farmer can go and submit their information to receive a special kit that we designed that contains Tamiflu, Z-Pak, and povidone iodine sprays, all of which are going to be effective at helping prevent, treat, and hopefully allay any fears about bird flu. It's the least we can do, and honestly, it's the most cost-effective thing that an American citizen could do to keep their health. And our medical kits are in the hands of millions of Americans today that are ready for whatever's next, whether it's the cold or the bird flu.
Yeah, and Peter, soon if it does happen, the H5N1 happen to spread and become a pandemic, drugs like those are going to be in massive demand. If you don't have them, it's going to be very difficult to get them. So just very quickly, you want to have them in advance, right?
Yeah, look, early prevention is the key to being sick. We talk about this all the time. It's one of our core values at the company is that you want to attack a virus at the first sign of that scratchy throat or that sniffle in your nose. You don't want to wait and lie in bed for 4 days while you rack up a 104-degree fever and then finally end up going to the ER. The best time to treat is early and often. And that's why having medicines on hand in your medicine cabinet, as opposed to just the usual, Tylenol and NyQuil, those can really save your butt.
Yep. Save your butt, save you a lot of headaches and such. Peter, really good to have you on. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
All right, folks. All right, so what's that saying again? Keep your friends close, but your enemies closer. But what if your friends are not who you thought they were? What if your enemies were really the ones you thought were your friends all along? We see the Democrats aren't quite supposed to be our enemies, I guess. I mean, sure, we disagree about the best path forward for our country. We don't see eye to eye on almost anything, any of the major issues. But I know this much. We're supposed to be united against the rest of the world, right? We're all Americans. After all, aren't we all Americans?
Where did you grow up? Did you grow up in a place where you thought the Russians were the good guys? What part of America did you grow up in where they taught you the Russians were the good guys and our allies were the bad guys? That's the flip here that we need to continue to remind people. The Russians are the bad guys. They're raping women. They're killing children. They're bombing cities. The Ukrainians are the noble good guys. In some ways, they're more American than we are over the last couple of years. And we must stand with them in the same way we stood with the Allies in World War II and since this country was founded. This is not just about Ukraine. This is about the core and the integrity of American values. And that's what he's also betraying. Not just Ukraine, he's betraying American values.
That's what I was hoping you would get at, because this isn't just about Ukraine. This is about Russia. Yeah. And don't we need to remind the American people that they are the bad guys?
Where did I grow up? I grew up in America, where Americans are American. And because I grew up in this country as an American, that means that I know enough to for sure that those who claim that those far, far away in another country are somehow more American than we are here in our own country. Have I lost the plot completely? Yet the left has lost it. This is a cult. It's official. The enemy, as J.D. Vance put it in that now infamous speech in Germany last month, the enemy is within. In that speech in Germany, the security conference, last month, J.D. Vance talked about what's becoming a lack of shared values with our other countries in Europe because they're stifling free speech and fair elections in places like Germany, the United Kingdom, Romania. And then he reiterated again, speaking at CPAC last month in Florida.
The point that I try to make to our European friends, and I think that they're our friends, I believe that, I know President Trump does, is that friendship is based on shared values. You do not have shared values if you're jailing people for saying we should close down our border. You don't have shared values if you cancel elections because you don't like the result, and that happened in Romania. You do not have shared values if you're so afraid of your own people that you silence them and shut them up. So let's have shared values. Let's defend democracy. Let's have free expression, not just in the United States, but all over the Western world. That is the path to strong.
That was in D.C. You see, I hate communism as much as the next guy, at least with common sense. It's a system that kills millions upon millions of people and always has. It not only doesn't work, but it breeds hate, violence, and rightfully so. America and so many countries in the West fought against it, our own countries, and worked to stop the spread of it elsewhere. That's what we've done. That's what we're supposed to do. But let's not forget how many bad choices that led to. Endless wars, more bad choices. Vietnam. We essentially armed the future Taliban and Al-Qaeda in support against the Soviet Union throughout the 80s. And then there are too many examples to mention here, not to mention how we turned in ourselves during the McCarthy era. We pointed the finger at ourselves. An ugly era in this country, by the way. But look at what we have now. We've got a left that embraces every single ugly shade of Marxism. They're supporting terrorists in the Middle East, marching around waving Hamas flags. And until President Trump came along, nothing was being done about it at all. And now an enemy of the state is being treated as such, while Joe Biden sat idly by, putting it lightly, when the commander-in-chief is completely gone. Joe said and did absolutely nothing while things like this happen. What you're seeing is never before seen footage of Columbia University students taking over a building on campus last year. Now, we knew it happened, but we haven't seen this footage before. They posted it to protest the expulsions of students who were involved. These are not American values. And it's right here, happening right in our own country, the enemy within, as JD said. This took place just a week later. This week, take a look at this.
Patterson is the capital of Palestine in the United States of America. Patterson, as stated before, is the fourth holiest city in the world. Jerusalem, Mecca, Medina, and then Patterson, New Jersey.
In case you didn't hear it, he said Patterson. Patterson is the capital. The mayor of Patterson, New Jersey, declaring that Patterson is the capital of Palestine in the United States of America. That's this week, folks. I kid you not. On October 8th in 2023, the citizens of that same town of Palestine cheered the horrific events of October 7th, when at least 1,400 people got slaughtered. And at least the hijackers who commandeered American Airlines 77, the flight that crashed into the Pentagon, had apartments in Patterson, New Jersey, according to the 9/11 Commission report, the official U.S. inquiry. In 2022, part of Main Street in Patterson was renamed Palestinian Way. While we worry about who our real friends are outside, we also have to worry about our real friends inside. Like to the mayor of Patterson, you can be the capital of Palestine in the United States, but I don't think anyone wants that. You're excluding yourself. And by the way, Mayor of Patterson, the feeling is changing, right? You're not right. You need to step aside, let Trump be Trump, let MAGA take over. There is no capital of Palestine inside America. We'll be right back. Fountain Hills, Arizona looks wonderful, but I want to do this right away. On Friday with Mike Benz on the show, and it was just eye-opening, just stunningly eye-opening. So many things that he was exposing, have been exposing. I'll play a little soundbite, and Steve Bannon's waiting on the backside of the soundbite to react, but take a listen to this. If it doesn't blow your mind, I don't know what will. Listen. The Democrats defending USAID, I couldn't figure out. Jamie Raskin out there, I just can't figure out. Is it because they realized that the USAID could operate de facto the presidential edict, and therefore they could have access to the things that, even if President Trump wanted to do, didn't want to do, they could access it through the USAID? It was their own little private, I don't know, CIA?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's actually a great way to describe it. In fact, one of the top recipients of USAID funds every year is Chemonics. Chemonics is a private company that was, its founder, even, you can read this in the New York Times, said he started Chemonics because he always wanted to have his own private CIA. And that's I believe, the #2 recipient of all USAID grants every year for over a decade now. And so, but this is the function of it. But you have these Congress critters whose own political lives depend on both direct USAID funding to their donors and to their constituents, and to the multinational corporations who support them, but also to the actions of what USAID accomplishes when it regime changes a country and when it creates these puppet dictatorships who turn over the natural resources or turn over the energy deals or the licenses to their own constituents. You see this, for example, with Jamie Raskin, whose district, I believe, receives an unbelievably disproportionate amount of USAID funding. You see this with Chris Murphy, the guy who is leading the charge against stopping USAID shutdown at the Senate. Chris Murphy bragged in 2014 about how the U.S. orchestrated the coup of the democratically elected Ukrainian government in 2014, and that it wouldn't have been possible without U.S. sanctions and U.S. paying essentially all the protesters there. Chris Murphy, in that same live television spot, said that his own state, Connecticut, was highly dependent on folding Ukraine into the EU by noting that 40% of trade from Connecticut goes out to the EU. And so he had this NATO enlargement, EU infinite expansionism philosophy that his own political prospects depended on in the state of Connecticut.
Let's bring in Mr. Steve Bannon. Steve, now we know why Jamie Raskin and the other Congress people were in front of USAID after Doge started looking into it. The grift, sir, is absolutely disgusting.
Well, it's not Doge that looked into them. This has been going on. This is one of the fallacies. I don't really count in Doge. I want to succeed. But waste, fraud, and abuse, this has been known for years. The people that watch War Room know in the summer of 23, they sat through all-night sessions at the subcommittee level on the appropriations bills where you had Matt Gaetz, MTG, Lauren Boebert, the great Eli Crane going through this and saying this has got to be voted down, this has got to be thrown out, overruled by McCarthy's subcommittee chairman and votes of rhinos. This is a festering sore. It's been going on for a while. I just want everybody to understand on the CR that the House is going to vote for tomorrow, everything about USAID is financed. It's an up or down vote. Now, we're talking about rescissions and impoundments and everything we've been promised that President Trump is going to do and effectuate actually cutting this money. But everything Mike Benz talks about there, which is 100% gospel truth, and people have known, although Speaker Johnson over the weekend on CNN, I think it was, said, oh, well, this is really bureaucrats hiding it from us. No, they weren't hiding. And if they were, they ought to be brought up on charges. This is the establishment of the Republican Party is controlled opposition when it comes to USAID. The USAID is a CIA front, right? It's involved in the NGOs and the invasion of the southern border, the suppression of free speech in Europe, in Hungary, and against conservatives here. It's the worst of the agencies, but it's an open secret. It's been around for years.
Yeah, and as I said, they asked Ben, so please tell me the FBI wasn't involved too. He said, oh, hell yeah, the FBI was using the USAID as a slush fund. They've been doing this for years as well. It's hiding in plain sight, Steve.
It's Victoria Nuland when they did the color revolution in 2014 in Ukraine. And that's why Ukraine's a scab, Eric, when it gets picked
Yeah.
A lot of pus is going to run out from that because USAID was in there as part of the color revolution with Victoria Nuland. USAID has been all over the planet. Now, listen, they have a good program like for water treatment in India and growing crops in sub-Saharan Africa. But that's the fig leaf on top just to divert your attention. It's rotten to the core. I'm so glad it's being zeroed out. I would just like in the CR to be noted right now that it's being zeroed out. Rubio came out today and said 85% of USAID he's striking off, and immediately they were talking about, well, how you do that outside the appropriations process? If it's in a CR, you've basically reconfirmed it was appropriated. That means you have to go to court, and we just saw the courts the other day are challenging President Trump on this very topic.
Well, they overturned his challenge of his ban on the $2 billion. Looks like a lot of legal mess happening going forward.